Bring it.
Speaking of giving a lot, the Trump voters didn't get their wall, but they did get a huge tax cut for the wealthy. And some numbers came out today, and it's something that Republicans are very, very proud of. And it's one of the big markers for the Trump administration is this great tax cut.
The crowning achievement of Paul Ryan's career. And
some numbers just came out today, James, about the some polling numbers on the tax cut. And a recent Gallup poll just came out today. 48% of respondents said they disapprove of the tax cuts, while just 39% approve, which seems surprising given the tax cuts boosted take-home pay for roughly two-thirds of American workers.
That's an amazing
poll
result. That's amazing to me.
Now, Republicans in Washington are so dismayed by the tax unpopularity that they're considering another round of tax cuts, although passage seems unlikely. And I don't know if that's the omnibus bill.
No.
Okay, well, Americans don't like the tax cut. And basic reasons are people think the tax cuts favor the wealthy over the middle and working class. They're suspicious that the tax cuts for businesses are permanent, but the tax cuts for individuals are temporary. And they think it's irresponsible, and I think this is a big one, to finance the tax cut with debt that future workers will have to shoulder. So how do you measure that to voters you talk to of wanting to be fiscally conservative, but yet adding such huge debt in favor of helping wealthy Americans?
Well, I like how you phrase that, wealthy Americans, because I think there's that 1%, it's getting to a point where
uber wealthy Americans. Yeah, it is tough.
Well, actually, most of the uber wealthy Americans are Democrat. They are. Look at look at Silicon Valley. Look at all the billions there. I believe that we need a heck of a lot more refinement in the tax cut, the tax reform. And that's part of the reason why I want to get in, because of my background in finance. So I don't know. I mean, the poll that came out today, I'm not, I don't have that information in front of me. And I always question polls. I always do. Just my nature. I'm just cynical. But, that the crumbs, member Pelosi said, I was shocked when she said that. And they said, I could use some of those crumbs, honestly. But getting back to, yes, one of my missions is to look at the tax reform and tighten it up so middle Americans can get a bigger tax break. And again, we're gonna address the upper wealth, because if they are getting a bump, we're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna make some reform. That's my promise to the American people, because I don't agree with that.
10 years ago, we had the economic meltdown, and I mean mainly because Wall Street really took advantage. No one went to jail for that. The Dodd-Frank was basically to shore up some of that so it wouldn't happen again. The Wells Fargo had a case today. Now they owe the government $1 billion for their fraudulent things. But what happened was, during the tax cut, Wells Fargo got $2.5 million in one day from a tax cut. So this $1 billion that we're basically putting on them as a fine for their wrongdoing, they don't even feel it. And I mean, $1 billion to you or me is just a enormous amount of money that we can't even fathom. To a place like Wells Fargo, it was, we got that, no problem. So where are we going to find measures that can keep them honest? And I guess one of the questions I have, since you are and have a financial background, is something like an FTT tax or a financial trade tax on Wall Street. Would that be something you would possibly take a look at?
I would look at it, honestly, because I think because I look at the framework and the net effect. So, the outcome, you're trying to get outcome X. But I want to make certain that it's sound and it's, of course, legal, for one. But we can make it legal if it makes a good algorithm or good formulary. So, yes, the answer is yes. I'd love to look at that. I obviously haven't looked at it. But, honestly, that's under a big microscope in my world, tax, because I deal with that all the time. And if that recent poll that you're speaking of is accurate, and we'll find out if that is, because there's always question of the pollsters, then we need to do something about it, because that is the voice of the people. So we need to address that. And it's just a question of how do we get to the end result. And that's I'm not surprised about Wells Fargo. I'm not surprised about Wells Fargo. It's just the nature of big banking. But how can we curtail that where they don't make such a rich day? Because that's an amazing day in our world. I mean, we could retire 3 times over with that kind of money. But yes, address it. And I'm all about digging deep, finding out where the problems lie, coming up with the best possible solution and strategy. So it's on the table. We got to deal with it. It's one of my very, very first objectives or missions is to deal with that, and also the level of corruption in government, because you can see what's going on. It all fits together. Corruption in government, the payoffs, favoritism. It just, as a commoner, because I'm just a business guy. I look at this and said, how can we continue to get away with this madness, this insanity? So taxation, immigration reform, bring those families together. That is really a big concern of mine. I'm probably there's probably quite a few conservatives out there with a big heart. I probably have a bigger heart than most conservatives because I was independent. So that is my position. We're going to look at all these things. We're going to dig in deep. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we come up with a good plan that makes sense to everybody. Everyone give a little bit so we can all get a lot, and focus on the commonalities and then work on the differences. Hopefully that answers the question.